In this video, I'll be talking about the film adaptations of J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings trilogy, and the themes of Christianity within them. Keep in mind that this interpretation is all subjective. Tolkien himself said that he disliked allegory. However, as a devout Catholic, he also stated that he was aware of the subconsciously inserted Christian themes during his revisions of the novels. If you aren't familiar with Lord of the Rings series, here's a basic rundown. A few thousand years ago, this guy named Sauron forged a bunch of very cool rings. Basically, whoever had one of them had the ability to command a nation. There were 3 for the elves, 7 for the dwarves, and 9 for the human race. But Sauron had fooled everyone, because in reality he had also forged the Ring of Power, aka the One Ring, for his own personal use. He intended to use it to take over Middle-earth. Once the various peoples of Middle-earth discovered his intentions, they all banded together to fight him and his nasty armies of orcs. Isildur, the crown prince of Gondor at the time, was able to cut off Sauron's ring finger with his recently dead dad's broken sword. Sauron subsequently shriveled into dust, but his spirit was contained in the One Ring. Isildur got a hold of the ring, and instead of destroying it like a responsible normal person, he held on to it because power corrupts and all that. Note here that the ring could only be destroyed if it was tossed back into the volcano where it was originally made, the eloquently named Mount Doom. It's unsurprising that he was assassinated shortly afterward. The ring then fell to the bottom of a river and was not rediscovered for a long time. The Lord of the Rings has a prequel, The Hobbit, only some of which is relevant here. The part we care about is that a hobbit named Smeagol killed his brother over the ring when they found it while fishing. It prolonged his life but turned him into a pretty disgusting creature until he forgot his own name and started calling himself Gollum and living in a cave. He also referred to the ring as My Precious. Then Bilbo Baggins, a different hobbit and the protagonist of The Hobbit, found Gollum after 500 years and took the ring from him. Side note, the wearer of the ring turns invisible while it's on, though the specifics of that are kind of confusing because Sauron was definitely not invisible when Isildur chopped his fingers off. Bilbo Baggins kept the ring for many years. Enter Frodo, Bilbo's heir. This little dude's just chilling in the Shire. It's Uncle Bilbo's 111th birthday because, surprise, he still has the Ring of Power and it's kept him from aging naturally. Gandalf the Wizard, who's friends with Bilbo, comes to visit for the party and brings fireworks because why not? When Bilbo decides he's going to make a scene and disappear in front of all of his relatives at this party, it nearly gives Frodo and Gandalf a heart attack. Gandalf catches Bilbo before he runs off permanently for one last adventure, and convinces him to leave the ring behind for Frodo. Gandalf has his suspicions of what the ring is, but doesn't know for sure. Gandalf tells Frodo to keep it secret and safe because Frodo inherits all of Bilbo's stuff and he can hide it. Gandalf then leaves for a bit to do some research and decide whether the ring he left with Frodo was truly the Ring of Power. When he returns with the fantastic news that this little hobbit possesses the physical manifestation of all evil, he sort of has to drag Frodo out the door so he can give the ring to the elves, who will hopefully do something with it from there. Frodo winds up taking his bestie/gardener Sam and his troublemaking cousins Merry and Pippin with him for the journey, because he needs buddies and Gandalf has to go talk to his fellow wizard Saruman, who turns out to be working for the bad guys. Along the way they meet Strider, aka Aragorn, aka the lost heir of Isildur. He helps protect the hobbits from the Ringwraiths, creepy demon guys who used to be kings of men, on their way to Rivendell, where Lord Elrond and other elves dwell. Once they get there, they attend a secret council full of elves, dwarves, and men, where it will be decided whose responsibility it will be to get the ring to Mount Doom in Mordor so it can be destroyed. The ring's mere presence causes corruption and argument to the point where a distressed Frodo volunteers to do it himself. Of course, his loyal friends refuse to let him go on his own, and he is also joined by Aragorn, Legolas the elf, Gimli the dwarf, and Boromir the human. They are dubbed the Fellowship of the Ring. The Fellowship heads off to Mordor. They unfortunately have to pass through the Mines of Moria, where Gandalf quite literally dies in a hole while battling an ancient demon called a Balrog.
You shall not pass!
R.I.P., homie. Boromir is weak and continues to succumb to the corruption of the ring until he finally tries to take the ring from Frodo. Frodo decides he has to run away and destroy the ring himself, though of course Sam finds him and follows. Boromir had a valiant redemption battle to save Merry and Pippin from orcs, during which he dies. Also, the orcs still carry Merry and Pippin away. Rip. The second movie is sort of the least eventful of the trilogy, at least for Sam and Frodo. They meet Gollum and spend most of their time trying to get him to lead them to Mordor. The rest of the Fellowship tries to track Merry and Pippin until they come across Gandalf, resurrected and more powerful. And that pretty much covers all of the parts of film 2 relevant to this video. Part 3, The Giant War truly begins. Aragorn helps lead legions of men in battle against Sauron's armies. Gandalf keeps spirits up and hope. Sam and Frodo come closer and closer to Mount Doom. Frodo begins to feel the corruption that the ring inevitably brings, and Sam is struggling to keep him grounded. Sam saves Frodo when Gollum betrays them, despite being sent away. When they are at the last leg of their journey, and Frodo can no longer take a step, Sam saves the day.
I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you! Come on!
They enter the volcano at last, and after Frodo loses a finger to Gollum's rotten teeth, the Ring of Power is cast into the fire and destroyed once and for all. Sauron's forces fall, and Middle-earth is saved. Aragorn is crowned King of Gondor, Sam becomes Mayor of Hobbiton, etc., etc. Good prevails with the power of friendship. So how does any of this relate to Christianity? Well, first off, there are several Christ figures. No single character fully embodies Jesus like Aslan does in Narnia, but there are 4 characters in The Lord of the Rings that have some of the major characteristics. 1. Frodo Baggins. Frodo, as the ring bearer, is one of the obvious examples. He didn't sign up to carry such a heavy burden, but once he knew he was the only one capable of carrying out the task, he was fully willing to give up his simple and peaceful life in the Shire to do so. He made his way to Mordor, entirely aware that he may never return. This is a clear resemblance to Jesus' willingness to sacrifice his life for the good of humanity, despite knowledge that it meant certain death. Frodo also traveled with the Fellowship, which resembled Jesus' disciples in their undying loyalty to his cause. Boromir's betrayal exemplifies this even further. The disciple Judas betrayed Jesus in some of his most dire moments. Samwise Gamgee. This one may seem a little confusing because of how meek and shy he is, but Sam is one of the most Christ-like characters in his behavior. While Frodo inherited ownership of the ring from his uncle Bilbo, Sam did not originally have any obligation to help with its destruction. His helpfulness and loyalty to Frodo is similar to Jesus' compassion and love for all, and again his willingness to sacrifice himself. Though Jesus was free of sin, the world was not, and his sacrifice saved the world. In the same way, Sam owed nothing to the world outside of the Shire, but was still incredibly brave in his endeavors to get Frodo through the dangerous journey safely. He maintains faith until the end of the story that the duo will accomplish their goal and has simple wisdom to help them along the way. 3. Aragorn. The heir of Isildur has several Christ-like qualities, probably the largest number of all the members of the Fellowship. First, he is destined to be a king, but is a benevolent ruler and compassionate to all he meets. He lived his life as a common man. Secondly, he is a brave and excellent leader, willing to take responsibility for those weaker than him and do whatever it takes to let good prevail. This is not mentioned in the movies, but Aragorn also has magical healing abilities, just like Jesus' healing powers. Finally, he resists the temptation of the ring, as Jesus resisted Satan's temptations of sin. 4. Gandalf. Gandalf has the most obvious Christ-like event when he dies and is resurrected. He dies in an act of self-sacrifice to prevent the rest of the Fellowship from being killed by the Balrog, just as Jesus was crucified to protect humanity from eternal damnation. Additionally, he is a wise and powerful leader like both Aragorn and Jesus, and is essentially the Middle-earth equivalent of an angel. Aside from the Christ figures, Lord of the Rings also resembles several other Christian themes and characters. 1. The One Ring. One could argue that the Master Ring is its own character, and it embodies pure evil and the powerful temptation of sin. 2. Sauron. Sauron is a representation of Satan. Obviously, he is an evil tyrant who tempts people with corruption, but within the book series, he is literally the Tolkien version of a fallen angel. 3. The White Tree of Gondor. The iconic White Tree of Gondor is a symbol of hope. When its leaves are almost gone from the tree, people are afraid that Gondor will fail, but when a flower is found near the end of the movie, it shows that there is hope left for Middle-earth.